There's a prevailing myth that Robin Hood stole from the rich and gave to the poor. And the government always uses this as an excuse, or people in government positions and liberal positions. They're like, we're like Robin Hood, we're stealing from the rich and giving it to the poor. Except they say that they're justified even more because it's not stealing, it's taxes. Well, the truth is, if you read actually into the Robin Hood stories, what he's doing, he's not stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. What he's actually doing is taking tax money back from the king and giving it back to the people. So he's actually stealing tax money and giving it back to the rich and to the poor. And this is a lot different. So, you know, I always, this is a question I used to think about. People always talk about it was Robin Hood a good person because the assumption was that he was a thief stealing money from the rich and giving it to the poor. And I would say no, he wasn't a good person because, that's stealing. You can't steal from anyone. Doesn't matter if you think you're justified or not. But he wasn't actually stealing from the rich, okay? He was stealing tax money that the king was taking too much taxes from the rich people and the poor people too, and Robin Hood would take those taxes back and give them back to the people. So when the government uses, those people use that analogy as, you know, Robin Hood did this, so we're gonna take that tax money from the people, from the rich people, and give it to the poor people. Well, actually, Robin Hood was the opposite. He stole the tax money back that the government was trying to take it and gave it back to the people. So that's a prevailing myth that, it's nice. Once you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay? Because think how government has literally ruined charity. And this is an important one because charity is one of the main Christian virtues for a reason. And I'm like, if you want to think, why is America and other places not as good today as they used to be in terms of the moral integrity of the people, it's because government has completely taken away charity. You know, think about it. The government taxes people, they steal the money from the rich people, and then they give it to people who they think need it. Okay? It sounds good, but it takes away, the charity of the rich person. To use an analogy, you're on the street and you have a sandwich, but you're pretty full. There's a beggar on the side of the road. He's hungry. He says, "Please, can I have that sandwich?" And you give it to him. That is a nice act. It's a charitable act. You know, everyone wins. The beggar gets a sandwich. He is not starving to death. You did a nice act. That's good before God, but it's also, it's just good in your heart. And now the beggar, now that he's seen that charity and mercy, he's going to be a better person too, unless he's really selfish and greedy. But the more that happens, the less selfish and greedy they get. It used to be that, you know, the poor people, when someone would give them money, they'd be like, "Oh, thank you so much, thank you," because they know, you know, that was a really good thing that person did, giving them the money, and they're grateful for the help. Now, if the government only gives them so much money, they're actually mad at the rich people. They're like, "You should be taxed more." Or if someone gives them charity, they're like, "Give me more," and they're not even thankful for the money that this person's freely giving you. Like, it's ridiculous, okay? But going back to the analogy, you're on the street with the sandwich. There's the poor beggar, he's starving. Then another guy comes up, points a gun at you, and says, "Give him the sandwich," and you give him the sandwich. Same exact thing is accomplished, okay? But now all of the moral worth is gone. You didn't freely give the sandwich, so you didn't have any charity, and now the beggar's not even thankful to you because he didn't get it from you, and he's like, it makes him think the world works differently. It's like, oh yeah, if I want something, I just get a guy to point a gun at someone for me, and that's what the government does with taxes, because though they're taking that money from you and they're just giving it to someone else, and it takes all the good out of the action. Okay, it makes it all terrible. And Aristotle, the great philosopher Aristotle, he said, when he talks about charity, he said, some people give to the wrong people for the wrong reason, or one of either. And he said that's actually not even charity. Okay? So if you're taking money and you're giving it to like a murderer or something, like people do with GoFundMe's and stuff, Aristotle says no, that's not charity. You can't. No one's gonna praise you for that, or at least no one in the right mind, and you're not gonna gain any moral worth from that. Okay, and that's also what the government does too. You're not even. First of all, you're not even giving them the money. Okay, but the government will steal the money from you and then give it to the wrong people and like for the wrong reasons too. And now the action is like pretty like intrinsically evil in itself now. It's gone from being a great action all the way down to being, like almost evil. And you could even say it was. Um like for Aristotle, magnificence was a virtue. If you were a great man who earned a lot of money, you deserve to be, you know, deserve to keep that money, have a big house, because you show what it's like being a great man, and you can inspire other people, and also you can help other people out by giving them money. But the government doesn't want anyone to be magnificent. They want to take all the money and just spread it all out and make a bunch of bland losers who are reliant on the government for everything in their life. Okay, and that's terrible. That's why Aristotle disagreed with it, and that's why you should too. One thing Aristotle gets a lot of hate for is that he actually supported slavery. He said some people are just naturally inclined to be in a slave-like state. And now, well, obviously, this is one of the things that Aristotle did get wrong. Okay, a lot of people don't see the semi-truth in the statement because if you look at a lot of people in today's world, like they're basically in a slave-like state. They're mindlessly doing their jobs. Begging for stuff from the government. They go home. They play video games. These aren't great people. They're not slaves. They don't deserve to be slaves, but they don't deserve to be great people either if they're not gonna, put any work or motivation in. And that's like, you know, if the way you act is what you're gonna get. Okay, if you act and work like a hardworking, intelligent person, you deserve to be at a higher station. If you don't, a lower station. It's pretty simple, and it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Um, the church also the church, I want to talk about false justification too. The church talks about, say, you steal $40,000 from the church, and the church goes, well, what's going on here? And you go, no, 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 I was donating it to charity, so like I didn't profit at all. Actually, I just took it from here and I gave it to those people who are really in need. Are you justified in doing that? Well, no, obviously not. Okay, you can't falsely justify a crime by doing something charitable because it's not charitable in itself in the first place. Just like the government, people think, they're, oh, I'm so nice giving these poor people money. Well, it's not actually your money. You're not the one being nice. If a homeless guy comes up to me and says, please can I have some money? My wife and kids are starving. I say, don't worry, man. And then I go steal money from a bank and give it to him. Was that a charitable action by me? No, like of course not. But that's kind of like what the government does, okay? And like this is stuff you have to realize is that basically the main point here is charity is something that you need to do if you are in at least a decent station in life, and the government has just really destroyed that through taxation and stuff, and we need to get back to that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Have a great day. Godspeed.